I know lots of folks have been watching at home on the live stream. What you've been seeing today is live from the Conservation Lab at the Virginia Department of Historic Resources. As you know, the Confederate statues on Monument Avenue in Richmond have been coming down over the past year. And earlier late this summer, the largest Confederate statue in the country of Robert E. Lee came down. The process, it was atop a 20-foot tall pedestal, and the process of taking that down began about a month ago. And yesterday, the team that was disassembling this discovered a time capsule that was placed there in 1887, according to the historical record. They've been looking for it for a while. A separate time capsule was found about a week ago in the middle of the pedestal, and that turned out to be a fun thing. It was artifacts placed there by the people that built the physical structure, and so hats off to them for thinking of that. Very cool thing. But then yesterday, the team found the original time capsule, this box right here, that the historical record talked about. And so for the past 2 hours, the team of conservators from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources have been disassembling it, taking the materials out, and you've watched them put those aside so that they can be safely maintained and studied over the next several days, a few weeks, many months. Before we wrap up, I want to give everybody the opportunity to talk to the conservation team. We'll turn first to Kate Ridgway, who has been leading this work today, and she'll tell you first about what's going to happen to the materials next, and then we'll open it up for questions, and then we'll wrap up.
Before you leave, your name and title.
Sorry, yes, thank you, Andre. I'm Grant Neely, G-R-A-N-T, Neely, N-E-E-L-Y. I work for Governor Northam as the Chief Communications Officer for the Commonwealth of Virginia. All right, Kate Ridgway.
Hi, once again, I'm Kate Ridgway. I'm the State Archaeological Conservator for the Department of Historic Resources. Just a quick recap. Me and my colleagues who will be talking and answering your questions in a sec, as carefully as we could, remove several objects from this container. We are going to try and get you a full inventory of that as soon as we can. Most of you are here, so you know most of the stuff that we've already brought out. Really, the next steps are we're going to try and stabilize these artifacts. They were more waterlogged than we had hoped, but not as bad as it could have been. So what you're seeing right now is basically what's going on with all the metal artifacts in the back. So the coins, the bullets, and everything. We're putting those into containers. They're going in with silica gel. They're being dried out as much as possible. That is not the case with all the organics. So the paper and everything that you saw is going to have a different process. And so I'm going to let Sue Donovan from UVA and Gretchen Geddes from Colonial Williamsburg Foundation talk about the next processes for paper and for textiles.
So I'm Sue Donovan, Conservator for Special Collections at University of Virginia Library, here as a sister institution for DHR. So what's going to happen in the next couple of hours as we finish the triage is we're going to focus on putting the very, very waterlogged books that we will not be able to interleave or otherwise dry. We're going to put those in the freezer. And so putting items in the freezer buys us a lot of time, and they will eventually be dried. We're going to put silica gel in the freezer after they're completely frozen. That will help draw off the moisture from the books. The flat items such as the newspapers here, we're going to work on getting them as flat as possible and then drying them between pieces of non-woven, non-spun polyester fabric and blotting paper. So that helps draw out the moisture from the very thin pieces of paper like newspaper. And as they dry, we'll continually sort of move them through the pack so that we can focus on the more wet items and make sure that those get dry as well.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Geddes. I'm from the Conservation Department at Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, and I'm here to help with the textiles. And they are going through a more similar process to the paper. We're trying to get what is damp or wet dry quickly, and this is done with sandwiching things between blotter in a single layer. The other thing that we have a concern about is all of the textiles that we did have some sort of media associated with them. They're printed, or my favorite, they have a metal decoration, either in the form of metals, like an award, or for metal fringes, just to get even better and fancier. So these are the things that, because they live together, we really need to get the moisture gone and to keep things dry. Especially in the case of the two-tone silk ribbon that was retrieved, it has dyes that will actually migrate, so we need to get that dried quickly. So that's already been sandwiched between blotter and is in the part of that drying process.
So, just so you know, the artifacts are staying here temporarily. DHR is just providing conservation for these artifacts, and then they're going to be stabilized, and then we're going to be working with the final owners of the artifacts to make sure that they are preserved in a way that works for their institution. Are there any questions?
Who exactly will the final owners be?
That I do not know.
That is yet to be determined. At this point, I think it's the Commonwealth's position that they are the property of the Commonwealth. But that's a question that we will spend more time working to answer.
And this process buys us time to have that process happen.
So the picture of Lincoln in his grave or in his coffin, what was that?
From what I can tell, that was a mass printed engraving that appeared in Harper's Weekly. So it was not an original, it was perhaps taken from a photograph, but it is an engraving in a newspaper. So the newspaper was from 1865, from what we can tell, unless it was a reprint, which has happened. There's really, there was no photograph per se.
Is that what that is centerfold?
Yes, exactly.
Did anything in particular intrigue you or pique your interest? Like, what does this tell us about the people at that time? What they cared about?
I think that we haven't had a chance to even look at these things. We were treating them as artifacts, and we aren't going to have a chance to process this anytime soon. Right now, we're just trying to stabilize them, and then we'll be able to go back and figure out what we have.
Could you provide us with a quick, brief summary of the things that were found today?
Well, I think for, as far as we can tell, without having a perfect memory, the items that were on the list, we found quite a few of them. So as we're documenting, we'll be checking them off and comparing them with the inventory list we already have.
And once we've done that, we'll be sharing information with all of you.
Absolutely.
We'll have a complete inventory, we'll have photographs, and we'll be happy to share those.
The first items you took out, some of us weren't in the room when you actually got the top off. Were those metals of some kind? What were
So
they?
we found some coins and a button and some mini balls.
But they weren't like battle medals or military.
I didn't see any of those, but there were a lot of things inside envelopes it looked like. So we honestly aren't sure what all we have yet.
Is there anybody else?
Is there anybody here who can speak to how common it was or wasn't to have a time capsule placed inside?
So, I am not a historian, and you should really find a historian. I think the folks at the Valentine probably know more about this than I do. I'm positive they do. But I think that there's a question as to whether or not this is truly a time capsule. Time capsules were meant to have a definite opening date in the future, and this did not appear to have that. So calling it a Cornerstone box is probably more accurate.
And then how long are the coins in silk ago? I think I missed that part.
We have to get them dry, and then I'm going to assess them as I get a chance.
Oh, okay.
And so I'll be able to do more photography and stuff and get more coin information out to y'all.
What is a Cornerstone box?
So, I mean, it's literally a box they put together to put in the Cornerstone. I don't have a better, I was talking to my colleague at the Valentine, and that's sort of the wording that we could find that was the best wording. It was a box of things they put together to put in the Cornerstone. and then it didn't have an end date like a normal time capsule where it's like, in 100 years, we're gonna open this. It just wasn't that kind of box. It was something that they put under the statue.
From inscriptions that I saw on the envelopes coming out, inscriptions said for the Cornerstone. So I think that really vibes with what Kate's talking about.
Is there no inscription on the side of the box, or can you just not tell?
I have not seen, when I looked at it last night, there was no inscription on the side of the box. I'm not seeing any inscription on the inside anywhere. We can't see it on a lid. I mean, it is definitely possible that this copper has been sitting in acidic water for long enough that has sort of been corroded away.
All
The
right,
other
anybody else?
possibility is it never existed. Who knows? Sorry, go ahead.
No, anybody else?
Okay, we're gonna get back to work.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for being patient.
Before we go, let's give a big shout out to the Department of Historic Resources. These are the best conservators in the United States. And to everybody at home, thank you to them. Thank you to the team from the Virginia Film Office. Thank you to the legal team at the Governor's Office who made this possible. Nice work, especially on a holiday week. These are folks who are used to toiling by themselves in this room. And so we've had lots of folks fully vaccinated, fully masked together in the room. So thank you all for being here as well.
And thank you again to the folks in the back that you're not seeing who are working.